here with us right now is Sarah DeSantis, and Sarah is the executive director of an organization called Saca, Silverton Area Community Aid. Yes, it's in Silverton. So the topic is hunger, and the topic is also our rural communities, because these issues don't just impact metro areas. They're prevalent in rural areas, and it's happening in Silverton, right?
It is.
So tell us a little bit about Saca, as we all belovedly call it. So.
Okay, yeah. Saca has been around in some shape or form for over 70 years. We started as a food pantry in Silverton, kind of a church-based, faith-based food pantry, and it evolved over the years, and now we also provide assistance for housing, utility bills, transportation. We have kind of a whole case management and financial assistance wing. We also offer classes and connect people to all sorts of other resources that they can't find in our rural community. So kind of being a liaison for people to connect with services that they might find here in Salem or in Woodburn or Portland or larger communities, because it is really challenging being in a rural area. We serve the Silver Falls School District, which is a 260-mile radius, a geographic area, and we go all the way up to Silver Falls, out past Scotts Mills, and even little parts of Salem and Mount Angel and Woodburn. We have addresses in a lot of neighboring communities, and it's a really large geographic school district. And when we think about some of our friends and neighbors who live way out on the outskirts of our boundary, it is really challenging to access resources, right, including food. Right. And so we still have a thriving food pantry, and people come to us 3 times a week for our food pantry. We have a shopping style food pantry, so people are able to come and shop for the food that they need. They can come as often as they would like, and they can shop for the items that they need. Most things are unrestricted, so rather than us giving people food that we think they want, they get to come in and shop, and it's kind of like a little grocery store. So that really helps with food insecurity and helps meet people's needs. Right. And
so, Silverton itself is right around 10,000 people. The area you serve is probably twice that?
It's about 20 to 22,000, I think, based on the school district numbers.
And I'm just interested in the numbers of unique service points. I don't know if you could describe some of that. Because I think it's kind of surprising when you talk to the rural areas how much need there actually is.
Right. Yeah, and Silverton is, I think, a little bit unique. I sit on the Marion Polk Food Share Board, so I have some insight to how food pantries work across the Marion and Polk County area, and including the rural areas. But in Silverton, it is a fairly wealthy community, but there's a very large income gap, and there are people who are middle income or higher income, and then there's a gap, and there is a pretty significant population of low-income folks. And many of these people, the people that we serve, are from Silverton, have grown up there, have been there for generations, and they want to continue staying there, but it's a very expensive community to live in, and there's not a lot of housing. And I know that's an issue that's not just unique to Silverton, but Silverton is getting more and more expensive, and it's harder and harder to stay there. So when we look at our numbers, over the last few years, we have seen a steep increase in the number of people that we're serving and the frequency that we are serving them. So that started in about mid-2022, when a lot of the supports that we received during COVID, we had SNAP benefits were higher for food, and we were receiving some supplemental income to help just cover certain costs, and moratorium on evictions, and all of these things that were in place to help people get through a really challenging time then went away. And at the same time, inflation took off. So things were getting more expensive, and people lost income. And it made it very challenging to meet basic needs. And so we saw a steady increase. So from 2022, we have just each year, 2023, we saw a sharp increase in the number of services, and then we just wrapped up 2024 And we served over 3,000 people
Wow.
in our area. And sometimes there are times when people come
Sure.
from outside our area
Right.
and we say, you're here, we'll serve you. And then we give them resources and referrals to go find a food pantry in their area. But most of those people live in our community. And
I know that Saca is primarily a food service operation, but I know you mentioned earlier that you do a number of other things. But how common is the financial ask of people? I mean, it's
every
pretty
day.
common
Yes.
right now, isn't it?
Oh yeah, we had one case manager. We kind of limped along for a long time with one case manager, and I hired a second in August, and we had some staff had some health challenges, and so I actually ended up hiring a third while one of ours was out. And then when that person came back, when the original case manager came back after a medical leave, we realized that really we need 3 case managers because we're that busy. And in order to do the work in the best way
Right.
and achieve the best outcomes, to really connect with people more, take the time to build that relationship, build trust so that we can really get down to what the core issues are that are holding people back or the challenges that they're experiencing that are preventing them from either, keeping work or keeping a steady home, buying enough food, all of these things. So yeah, we now have just in the last 6 months, we now have a case management team with 3 case managers,
Wow.
3 part-time case managers,
Right.
but
Right.
we were understaffed for a long
Right.
time and very busy.
Yeah, it really is about that being able to establish a relationship, and a couple more case managers really help with that.
Yeah.
That's pretty awesome. So
Yeah, I don't remember the number offhand. I don't have the annual report numbers memorized, but I believe I think we supported around 950 households in our community last year, and I think we paid, I think it was like 1,400, made 1,400 payments, whether it was for rent or utilities or what have you, about over $250,000 worth of
Right.
financial assistance in our community. So it's pretty significant, and times we have to say no. We generally don't turn people away, but often we can't pay all of their
Right.
bills, so we connect with other agencies and try to come together and make sure that collectively
Right.
we can support them and figure out ways that they can also sustain themselves and make a plan. So,
Right.
yeah.
I think it's also interesting is you don't really. You really don't think about it in Silverton a lot, even though I work for a homeless agency. But we have a great organization there called Sheltering Silverton. And they do an amazing work with helping our homeless population there. Do you guys, Saca, partner with them in any way?
We do, yeah. We used to be co-located. We were in the same building for a long time, but we're both, they've already moved on and we're getting ready to move on
Right.
to a new facility. So it used to be really easy because we were in the same building and people could come to the same place. They're in a great new facility that has a shelter, which is wonderful for them. And we do collaborate often, not only by providing food to the people they serve, but also just sometimes if somebody is moving from the shelter into housing, we can help with their first month rent. Sheltering Silverton might pay their deposit, and we could pay their first month rent just to help get them into that space.
I love that. Yeah.
So that they're on solid ground when they start. And sometimes people come to us and we can meet their needs to a certain degree, and then we think they might benefit from working with the folks over at Sheltering Silverton. So we'll call them and connect them. Maybe it's a family that's kind of on the brink of homelessness, and so they're definitely it's a strong partnership. And likewise, they have people who come to them, and maybe they're better served at Saca. Maybe they are housed and they need help paying their rent, but they wandered over to Sheltering
Right.
Silverton. It doesn't. Help Matters, that both organizations are run by women named Sarah, so people get us confused a lot. Sarah, Sheltering Silverton, Silverton Area Community Aid.
Yeah.
But we try to partner in as many ways as we can to serve our community in a holistic way. And in the food, as far as food insecurity goes, I've been at Saca for almost 8 years as the executive director, and things have changed a lot in that 8 years. When I started, people could only shop in the pantry one time a month, and there was some fresh produce, but there wasn't a lot of fresh food, and just food pantry, food banking has changed a lot over the years, and there's a lot more fresh and frozen food, which is wonderful because that's what most people want. And we still certainly have shelf-stable food, but one thing that we try to always have are things that are easy to open, maybe that don't require a can opener for people who are unhoused, who don't have the means to cook, even people who are maybe staying in a camper or something and they don't have a lot of storage. So having things that are easy to prepare or don't require any cooking. So always having bread and peanut butter to make peanut butter sandwiches, having tuna, hearty proteins, tuna with the pull top lid. Soups like that too, and making it easier. We do provide can openers too, because sometimes there are things that people want that they need help opening. But we're getting ready to move into a new space, a new facility that will give us more space, and not just for the food, but just for services in general. And we'll be able to spread out a little bit more, and also I think about our programs in a different way. So just having more space will really allow us to grow and expand and do some things that we've been wanting to do for years, but haven't been able to. So always looking to improve our services, and we try to get input from the people that we serve so that we're meeting their needs. Kind of, like you, we are not necessarily the experts. We need people who have lived experience to help shape our programs, and so we do. We have a lot of volunteers with lived experience. We have board members with lived experience, and so that helps a lot in shaping how we do things.
I'll ask one of the best questions. What are ways that people can help fulfill needs, and what are those needs that you have?
Yeah, there's always food donations. Our community always comes through and provides and donates food, funds. We do buy some food, so we supplement food donations by purchasing milk, eggs, cheese, meat, fresh produce, and then some of those heartier foods like peanut butter, tuna. We buy sliced bread so that families and people can make sandwiches for school lunches and things like that. So certainly contributions to help with those things are always appreciated. And contributions can also go toward that financial assistance program where we provide people with gas vouchers to get to important appointments, medical appointments, or appointments with Veterans Affairs or DHS or wherever they might need to go. Often those appointments are in Salem or Portland. And then, like I said, we help with rent and utilities. So the only way we can provide those services is with financial contributions and grants. And then, like I said, we also have this facility project that we're very close to finalizing and finishing. And that our new facility will be a hub for social services. So we'll be able to provide our current programming and continue that and expand, as I mentioned. But we will also have space there for other agencies to provide services. So some will come in a drop-in basis. So maybe, like I said, Veterans Affairs maybe will come down once a month and provide services to our community on site. Or DHS might have their case managers come in and be able to meet with people so they don't have to go to Salem to meet with that case manager. We've got another nonprofit called Silverton Coffee Club that provides space for 12-step meetings, and they'll have a permanent space in our building. And they've been looking for a new space for years, just like we have. So we're really excited to be able to provide that for them. And it will open, this new facility will open the doors to so many more partnerships, again, just so we can reach better outcomes and do better work.
So I happen to be a resident of Silverton, so I know a little bit about Sarah and Saca, but it's exciting. You've mentioned the building project, and so you're getting really close. So any assistance there, I'm sure, would be gratefully appreciated.
Yes.
To get them over the top. I've been blessed to see the facility, and it's a great addition to that community. I would say that everything you've heard today from Sarah is duplicated in a lot of the rural communities in the Willamette Valley. Homelessness is not unique to Salem or Kaiser. It's not unique to Portland. It's all over the place. Mm-hmm. Hunger is not unique to Salem and Kaiser. I just can't encourage our rural parts of this feed that are listening to this to really find a way to get engaged, get involved, and be a part of what's happening in your own community. And I think Sarah would probably agree with that. Mm-hmm. So can you give us your website address? So
yes, I can. It's a long one. It's silvertonareacommunityaid.org.
Okay,
all
Silverton
spelled
Area
out.
Community Aid.
Yeah. I think one last thing I was thinking of is that I think some people, maybe not in the last few years, but prior, and even I grew up in Silverton and I came back, I didn't ever see or think that there were people who were homeless living in our community. But now, of course, doing the work that I do, I know that. And I think because there are more now than maybe there were when I was a child, but I think, and maybe it's unique to Silverton, but I think in rural areas, homelessness looks different than it does here in Salem. We don't see the camps downtown.
Yeah.
It's a little more hidden, but it's there. And sometimes people are sleeping in their cars, or they're in camps, but they're maybe a little more hidden. And so you see you see homelessness in these larger cities. It's very obvious, and of course there are people living in other places that aren't quite so public in larger cities. But I think sometimes people are surprised that there's homelessness in these smaller towns. But there really are. I mean, probably about 10% of the people we serve are unhoused, and we don't ask that specific question, so it's hard for us to know for sure. But for a small town, if we served 3,000 people, that's 300 people who identified as being unhoused in some way, whether it was sleeping on somebody's couch or sleeping outside or at a shelter. So that's a pretty significant number for our little town.
Well, again, thank you, Sarah, for taking a few minutes and driving all the way into Salem for this.
Got me out of town.
We appreciate it very much. And,
thank you.
And I just think, as we go through this weekend, it's about having this community conversation and how we can all interconnect and work on solutions to the problems in our communities together. There's so many great people doing great work right now, and we want to draw attention to them, like Saca, like Sheltering Silverton, in whatever might be happening in your own community. But please figure out a way to get engaged, get involved, ask yourself, what can I do? And when you find that answer, act on it. So again, Sarah, thank you so much for being here. We're blessed that you came by.